Part 63. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 621. Lulu raised his eyebrows and turned to look at Rongzhan. Uncle Rongzhan, how did we meet? Rongzhan. Oh, by the way, Lulu stood up and faced Nan 11. Mom, one time Uncle Rongzhan was taking a bath, and I fell into his bath, and we got to know each other. Rongzhan's expression changed. That's nonsense. Rongyu turned to look at him. Reporting to my father, the truth is a little different from what she said. Rongzhan quickly clarified the truth. She fell into the lake one time. I happened to pass by and rescued her. She has been pestering me since then. Lulu curled his lips. Men and women don't know each other. You saved me, so of course I will give you my life. Nan 11 smiled slightly and looked at the two people in front of her thoughtfully. The little girl doesn't seem like someone who would lie, but occasionally she does feel like she's not telling the truth. As for Rongzhan, I don't know if he is interested in her. If he doesn't have that idea, it would be better to end the relationship as soon as possible, so as not to affect the honor of the girl's family. 2 months, Rongyu said calmly. Rongzhan was silent for a moment and nodded, yes. Rongyu almost never interfered in the marriage of his two sons. He felt that when children became adults, they should be responsible for their own lives. What should be taught has been taught before they reached adulthood. Their adult lives are their own, and parents, there is no need to dictate their lives. Even if Rongzhan never got married at such an old age, Rongyu had warned him before, but he had never really interfered. I didn't expect that after so many years of silence, this news would come out. It was obvious that the little girl had no intentions, but it was also true that she did not tell the complete truth. No matter what the relationship between the two was, Rongyu gave Rongzhan 2 months to resolve the matter for their own good. The girl's family's reputation could not withstand such entanglement. The few chatted for a while, and Nan 11 turned the topic to Jinyu. Have you really thought carefully about Jinyu becoming the crown prince at such a young age? Nan 11 admired her daughter's determination and courage, but she still needed to be reminded, do all the ministers of Ziki agree? Chu Qinghuang was as domineering as ever, so what if they don't agree? If you can, overthrow me and establish an emperor. Otherwise, you can only listen to me. What do you think of Fukang? Nan 11 turned to look at Fukang, do you agree? Fukang had no idea. I will obey Nuanuan's decision. Rongyu didn't say anything. He stretched out his hand to hug Jinyu and looked at his little granddaughter's face. Do you want to be the queen? Jinyu sat on his arm, stretched out her hand to grab a strand of his hair, and played with it on her fingertips. She stared at Rongyu with her big, clear, and ignorant eyes. She looked no different from other children of the same age. Apart from being too beautiful, he doesn't show any particular intelligence. But Rongyu knew that she was different from ordinary children. After all, an ordinary child of this age would never say such words as attracting beautiful men from all over the world. Last summer when we captured Zhou in the palace, she captured the whole world. Fukang took the initiative to speak. That's why Nuanuan and I both feel that Jinyu is the destined daughter and is destined to be the Empress of Ziki in the future. She is indeed the right girl. Lulu looked at Jinyu and suddenly sighed, what a pity. Everyone turned to look at her. What's the pity? Rongzhan frowned, don't talk nonsense again. I'm not talking nonsense, I'm telling the truth. Lulu frowned, the little princess is the destined girl. According to her destiny, she can still be the master of the world, but the world is not in control. There are too many obstacles, and all countries are one family, so I say it's a pity. As soon as these words came out, the hall suddenly became quiet. Nan 11 was surprised, Miss Lu, can you still ask for your fate? It's not about fortune. Lulu considered a more understandable statement, my eyes can see what a person will encounter in the future. When Chu Qinghuang heard this, she immediately became interested in her. Then Miss Lu, you might as well take a look at me and see what you think I will be like in the future. Lulu turned to look at her. Can I tell the truth? Chu Qing Huang nodded, of course tell the truth. Her Majesty the Queen will abdicate before the age of 40 and travel around the world with the imperial concubine, Lulu said, and added, emotionally, I can grow old together with the imperial concubine and live to be 98. A look of surprise appeared clearly on Nan 11's face. 98, Chu Qing Huang raised his eyebrows. Can you actually get a precise number? Well, 98, Lulu scratched his nose. Although he is still 2 years away from a long life of 100 years, I think there is no difference. In comparison, the emperor's wife happens to live a long life of 100 years. Chu Qing Huang said, how do you say that? The queen and her husband died on the same day. When Chu Qing Huang heard this, he immediately fell silent. This means that when she leaves, Fukang will follow her? Why didn't you tell me before that your eyes were so powerful? Rongzhan frowned. You didn't ask me, Lulu defended innocently. Besides, I told you when we first met that if you don't stay with me, you will end up alone in your life. You don't believe me. Rongzhan. Rongyu was silent for a moment and asked lightly, do you know Yu Wang Zanruo? Lulu shook his head, I don't know. Zhan Hongyu. I don't know either. Lulu continued to shake his head, but I know that Zhan Hongyu will probably die alone. Chu Qing Huang frowned, it shouldn't be after all, Hongyu seemed to have gone with Duan Muguiu. Yes, Lulu insisted, in most cases, people's fate cannot be changed. Although I have never seen the person that Her Majesty the Queen mentioned, I can see something. Chu Qing Huang did not speak. Just like Her Majesty the Queen did not originally use this body, this little princess should not have the surname Chu, but if one person changes his fate against the will of heaven, the fate of other people related to you will also change accordingly. Lulu tried to use the most straightforward words to make them understand. No matter whose body Her Majesty the Queen uses, Princess Jinyu is destined to be your daughter, and she is destined to become a very noble person. The fate of a very noble person is difficult to change even by a fortune teller. Chu Qing Huang and Fu Kang looked at each other. Rongzhan had never heard her say this before, and his curiosity was aroused for a moment. So, my sister is a long-lived person. Of course, Lulu nodded. The queen is a virtuous person to the people of the world. She is very kind and virtuous, so she can live a long life. Not only will she live a long life, but she will also live a life without illness or disaster and die of old age. Although her words were a bit fortune-telling, every word touched Fu Kang's heart, and Fu Kang immediately developed a good impression of this girl. This was also the first time he liked a woman other than Chu Qing Huang. People also say that I am cold-blooded and do whatever it takes. Chu Qing Huang sat on a chair, drinking tea leisurely, in a good mood. It turns out that I am still a person who does great good. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 622. Lulu said matter-of-factly, a king has the responsibility to benefit the people of the world. If he does it, it is a great good. If he only cares about his own enjoyment and puts the people in trouble, that is a great evil. Throughout the dynasties, great evil kings will usher in the dynasty was destroyed, his wife, concubines and children died tragically, and he himself could not die well. Rongzhan frowned and said in a strange tone, it sounds like a magic stick who deceives the public with his lies. Why did Uncle Rongzhan say that about me? Lulu was unhappy. Everything I said is true. How could there be any lies to deceive the public? Besides, who among the people present today is not a person who stomps his feet and makes them tremble? Couldn't they tell whether she was deceiving others with her lies? Chu Qinghuang suddenly wondered where this Lulu girl came from and who she studied under. Who is your master? Lulu was surprised. Master? I don't have a master. Chu Qinghuang asked, what you just said are natural skills. Lulu nodded, yes. That Zhanhong Yu. Fukang hesitated, half believing what Lulu said. Why did he end up alone? Someone had a fortune telling for him before, saying that he was a red Luen star. The moving of the red Luen star does not mean that we will definitely be together. Lulu shrugged. The person whose red Luen star is moving is an evil person and has no determination to do good, so he is destined to have a short life. Fukang looked at Chu Qinghuang silently, and Chu Qinghuang didn't say anything. Rong Yu was thoughtful. Rong Zhan raised his eyebrows and looked at Miss Lu with a calm expression without saying a word. There was really no sign of her deceitful words on her face. Both her expression and her eyes were aboveboard, magnanimous, and calm. Miss Lu turns out to be a powerful person. Chu Qinghuang's lips curved slightly. I admire you. They are now probably sure that this innocent-looking Lulu girl is actually a hidden master. Your Majesty the Queen. Lulu suddenly showed a mysterious smile. I also know another secret of yours. What secret? Rong Zhan was curious. Chu Qinghuang glanced at him. Since it is a secret, how can you tell others easily? Lulu nodded. Don't worry, Your Majesty, I will never tell anyone. Even if I get married to Uncle Rong Zhan in the future, I will not reveal this secret. Nan 11 finally understood. No wonder Lulu wasn't afraid when he saw Rong Yu. Such a powerful girl would have seen through all of them. What's there to be afraid of? Even Rong Yu didn't expect that his son would recruit such a girl. Miss Lu, I want to talk to you alone. Chu Qinghuang said, you don't mind? Lulu smiled and said, I don't mind. So the two women got up and walked out. The people who stayed in the hall looked at each other in silence. Nan 11 asked, where is she from? Rong Zhan slowly shook his head, I don't know. Didn't check. Rong Zhan was a little helpless, I can't find it. It's like it fell from the sky. That's why my son never agreed to her. Falling from the sky? If you and your royal brother can't find out her identity based on the information you and your brother have, then it probably proves that this girl's origins are indeed not simple. Nan 11 pondered and turned to look at Rong Yu. What do you think? Rong Yu's eyes fell outside the palace door. I will send someone to check later to see if I can find any clues. It's just that he had a hunch that he might find nothing in the end, but he had to check it out. You and your family are all powerful people walking to the deserted mountain path, facing the evening sun. Lulu took the lead in speaking. From my father to my brother, and then to you, the Queen, everyone has a deep heart. In the world, good people are destined to be rewarded, so they deserve to enjoy the ultimate dignity. Chu Qinghuang's eyes fell on her beautiful face. Are you born with a superpower? Lulu nodded. Yes, born. Can anyone see the future? Lulu hesitated. It's possible to see, but there are all living things in the world, and I can't see them all. Wouldn't it be exhausting? I only see some that are relevant to me in the future, such as Uncle Rong Zhan. I like him, I want to spend my life with him, so I will visit his relatives. Chu Qinghuang hummed, it's good to see good things, but what if we see bad things? Something bad can be saved, but saving requires fundamentally solving the problem. Lulu said, forcibly changing one's life is not advisable. Chu Qinghuang pondered, you mean to talk about me? No. Lulu obviously understood what she meant, and said quickly, Her Majesty the Queen is just destined to have a disaster, and seizing her body is a way to resolve the disaster, but if Her Majesty is destined to only live to be 18 years old, then what will happen if she is destined to die? It's not possible to change destiny. Chu Qinghuang nodded, what parents in the world care about most is their children, so what I care about now is Jin Yu. The little princess will have a smooth life. Lulu said, Your Majesty can rest assured that she will not suffer from emotional pain. Will she have the ambition to be the leader of the world in the future? Lulu nodded, yes. Chu Qinghuang frowned. But due to the constraints of various relationships, she will restrain herself. Lulu sighed, Her Majesty the Queen actually does not have to worry about these things. The world has a destiny, the country has a destiny, and the people of all countries also have a destiny. What is supposed to come will come. What is not supposed to come will not come. The Emperor's order is extremely noble and cannot be changed easily. Even if your Majesty has some scruples, he must let nature take its course. Chu Qinghuang originally thought that she would be a decisive queen, but when it comes to her daughter and relatives, she still can't look on coldly. Your Majesty, don't worry. Whether the little princess has ambitions is her own business, but she is not a bloodthirsty person. Your Majesty can rest assured about this. Lulu said, the little princess is a blessed person and will not bring disaster to herself. Chu Qinghuang walked in silence for a while, and nodded slowly, Will my father and mother live a safe and smooth life? Yes. Chu Qinghuang had nothing to ask, and finally said, Do you really like my second brother? I like it. Lulu nodded, If he doesn't stay with me, he will be lonely all his life. Do you want him to be lonely all his life? No. But my feelings are different from others. Lulu curled her lips, I won't live and die for feelings, I just think it's good to spend my life with someone, have children, and have a place to rely on in life. Where are you from? Lulu said, A place you can never go to and I can't go back to. Chu Qinghuang raised an eyebrow. I'm actually quite happy. Lulu raised her eyes and looked at Chu Qinghuang. I'm glad to meet you. Before I met Uncle Rongzhan, I never thought that I would have any connection with the imperial family. Emperors of all dynasties killed each other for the throne. Husbands and wives, brothers, monarchs, and ministers were suspicious of each other, calculating and guarding against each other. Your family is different. Although you are born in the royal family, you are more blessed than the average imperial family. Not only are you blessed, but you will also bring blessings to the world. This is also my blessing. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 623. I think the second brother is lucky to know you. Chu Qinghuang smiled faintly, You just said that we will solve the problem fundamentally, what do you mean? Lulu scratched his head, For example, Chu Qinghuang used to do a lot of evil things. She had a cruel temperament and cold methods. Her original lifespan was only 24 years old. After you took her body, she was reborn as Duan Muguiu. In her body, this is actually her chance, because Duan Muguiu's body is weak and can suppress her cruel nature. If she can change her ways and become a good person, her lifespan can be extended. The more good things she does, the more blessings she will get. The more you pay. Chu Qinghuang was silent for a moment, but she doesn't want to. So the problem is not that there is no way to solve it, but that she doesn't want to solve it herself. Lulu nodded. The reason why Zhan Hongyu persisted in chasing after her was actually because he hoped that she could be a good person, but this woman is very stubborn. Chu Qinghuang said nothing. In fact, she has always believed in the existence of fate. The fatalism spoken by Lulu is somewhat different from Hongyu's, but there is no difference in essence. They both encourage people to do good. It's just that there are still some differences in the areas that the two are good at. Chu Qinghuang stood on the top of the mountain, looking at the rolling mountains and the end where they met the sky in the distance, with a vast sheen on her eyebrows. A life of loneliness. For Hongyu, is this fate, or is it a willing choice? Chu Qinghuang couldn't judge at this time. When Jin Yu came to Kangyun Mountain for the first time, although he acted quiet, he seemed to like it very much. His eyes always fell on the endless mountains in the distance involuntarily. So Nan 11 smiled and said, "The main hall has the largest window and the best view. My granddaughter can sleep with me tonight." Chu Ching Huang had no objection, and Fukang had no objection either. As long as their daughter doesn't object. So after nearly a month of traveling, tonight Fukang finally got to be alone with Nuan, enjoying the world of husband and wife. When going to bed at night, Fukang looked at Chu Ching Huang, Nuan. I think what the dear girl said makes sense. Fukang reached out and held Chu Ching Huang in his arms, with a different kind of satisfaction in his deep voice. "We will definitely be able to leave this world on the same day, same year, same month." Chu Ching Huang was silent for a moment, then rubbed his face hard. "You are right." A smile appeared on Fukang's face. "I suddenly felt that there is nothing wrong with knowing the date of my death in advance. Of course there's nothing wrong with living a long life." Chu Ching Huang glanced at him sideways. "You really got the advantage and behaved well." Fukang sighed. "It's just that I feel a little incredible." "Why?" Fukang said, "There are very few people in this world who can live to be 100 years old." Fukang was confused. "I am like this." "What are you like?" Fukang pursed his lips and said innocently, "I mean, my body has been nursed back to health by Nuan, and I can actually live a long life." Chu Ching Huang sneered. "Will Duan Mu die?" Chu Ching Huang frowned slightly and pondered for a while. Hong Yu's plan to save her from becoming a good person probably didn't work. Hong Yu must have calculated her fate, so he tried his best to make her do more good deeds, but Duan Mu is not a kind-hearted person, so this request is not easy for her to fulfill. Some people's stubbornness is engraved in their bones. Unless there is something or someone worthy of her change, but obviously, Hong Yu is not someone Duan Mu is willing to change. "Everyone has his own destiny," Chu Ching Huang said. "Hong Yu doesn't have deep affection for Duan Mu." Fukang leaned close to Chu Ching Huang, and the two of them talked head to head. "The world is so big, there should be many people who are proficient in the art of fortune-telling. There are many people who study destiny. Whether they are proficient or not depends on their talent," Chu Ching Huang said, correcting him. "By the way, Miss Lu is born, and is different from other destiny seekers. She's better than a lot of people." Chu Ching Huang joked, "Because she said we can grow old together." "I think what she said is right." Fukang was satisfied, even his eyebrows were full of joy. "Although I have always believed that Nuan will not change her heart, I am still very happy to hear Miss Lu say this. I am happy that we can grow old together and travel around the world. I am happy that we can live a lifetime together." Chu Ching Huang looked at the dark patterns on the carved beams. "What kind of person do you think Miss Lu is?" Fukang pondered for a while. "Bold, transparent, and wise." "The reviews are pretty high. Generally, few people dare to speak out about the fate of emperors. Even if they live a long life, many emperors will not be happy. They will feel that they can live longer." Fukang kissed Chu Ching Huang's face. "If someone calculating the precise lifespan is equivalent to calculating the emperor's death date, most people probably don't dare to say so." Chu Ching Huang nodded. "What you said makes sense. So she is brave." Fukang sighed, "and she is not afraid of master. She didn't even show any restraint when she arrived on the mountain. She is much better than me. His courage is really extraordinary. Miss Lu can't tell where she comes from, but she can see through the future and dares to tell the truth. In this way, she can easily gain your trust. This is also the reason why she is so smart." Fukang analyzed. "I guess where she comes from. It's not that we can't say it, or we don't know if we say it." Chu Ching Huang turned to look out the window. The night sky was twinkling with stars and the moon was bright. It was destined to be a beautiful night. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, Tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 624. The wise ancestors often say that God is watching what people do. In fact, whatever things everyone does, whether good or bad, will be rewarded in the future. Good or bad, either they will be rewarded to themselves, or they will be rewarded to others. On the children. Chu Qinghuang rested her head on Fu Kang's arm, hooked her fingers in Fu Kang's hair, and said in a lazy and leisurely voice, I wanted to compete for the throne in the past just because I wanted to have fun. All the princes of the Chu family are trash, not a single one of them. It's a great responsibility, but when I actually sat in that position, I realized that the position of emperor is not something to be fought for. Fu Kang nodded, yes. Maybe they should all be grateful, not that they are good people. In fact, neither Fu Kang nor Chu Qinghuang are good people, but they understand the emperor's responsibilities. That's enough. The more noble a person is, the heavier the responsibility they bear, so what she does can involve the interests of more people. If she does more right things, that is kindness. The kindness of the emperor means that the people of the world can live a good life. The more people live a good life because of her, the more important her good deeds will be. The more people will be deprived of food and clothing, suffer bullying and oppression, and even lose their lives because of the emperor's incompetence. Also the heaviest. Nuan Fu Kang hugged her waist, if we abdicate before the age of 40, Jin Yu should be in her 20s. Chu Qinghuang hummed. When women are in their 20s, they usually have a sweetheart. Chu Qinghuang frowned slightly. Miss Lu said that Jin Yu will have a smooth life and will not suffer from love injuries. Hearing this, Fu Kang breathed a sigh of relief, that's good. Chu Qinghuang closed her eyes, go to sleep. Fu Kang said, can't sleep. Why? I'm excited. Fu Kang's voice was soft, when I think of being able to grow old together with Nuan, I feel warm and comfortable in my heart. Chu Qinghuang sneered, maybe when you are 30 or 40 years old, when you see those delicate little girls, you will feel that there is nothing good about growing old together. How can Nuan say that? Fu Kang pouted, there are too many delicate little girls, one after another, but they all have their own lovers. No matter how old a man is, he will always like teenage girls. I don't know how, Fu Kang emphasized, I just like Nuan. Chu Qinghuang turned her head and looked at him, really? Nuan, don't doubt me. Fu Kang turned over and acted like a hungry wolf attacking a sheep, I can prove it with actions. Chu Qinghuang sneered, you can just say what you want to do. There is no need to pretend to be cruel. I know you have been holding back very hard these days. Fu Kang lowered his head and bit her ear. My Nuan is more courageous than her two royal brothers. Nan 11 sat on the edge of the bed, looked at Jin Yu who was sitting on the bed playing with tokens, and praised with a smile, the throne of Ziki says that you can sit down, and the princess is the princess. It will be done right away, unlike Zhaner who even took so long to write about his own marriage. Rong Yu stood in front of the window with his hands behind his hands, looking at the endless mountains outside the window. Hearing this, he turned his head and said, Nuan is indeed good. Walking to the bedside, looking at the little child enjoying himself, Rong Yu raised the corners of his lips with a gentle arc, you are very ambitious at a young age, and you have the spirit of being a mother. Jin Yu held the token in her little hand, raised her head, glanced at Nan 11, then at Rong Yu, and suddenly pursed her lips. What's wrong? Nan 11 reached out and hugged her over, are you unhappy? Jin Yu twisted her delicate brows, and one word popped out of her mouth, P. Nan 11 was stunned for a moment, then laughed knowingly, picked her up and walked towards the back. Rong Yu turned to look out the window. In silence, he recalled this fast life in his mind. The planning when he was a boy seemed like yesterday. Now half his life has passed. Not only are his children grown up, but also his grandchildren and granddaughters. Experienced hardships and enjoyed glory. Bring a person with a white head and share a family relationship with her. The happiest and most fulfilling life is probably like this. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 625. The other two palaces were either harmonious and warm, or charming and affectionate, but the Golden Bachelor, His Highness Rongzhan, could not sleep in the middle of the night. The reason is that this girl Lulu always pesters him. Uncle Rongzhan, we have agreed to live together for life, and I want to sleep with you. Rongzhan wanted to throw her out. Are you ashamed? Men and women don't have sex. My father and mother have acquiesced in us being together. What's there to be ashamed of? Lulu lay on the edge of the bed, holding her cheeks and looking at him, her big eyes shining brightly. If you don't obey me, I will tell my mother that you bullied me. Rongzhan looked at her expressionlessly. Uncle Rongzhan is particularly imposing when he is wearing military uniform. He is bright and radiant. He is no different from a young man of 17 or 18 years old. Lulu flattered him sincerely, but he has more age-preserved charm than the young man, irresistible. Rongzhan's mouth twitched. Flattery. I'm telling the truth, Lulu snorted coldly. I have put aside the reserve of a woman and confessed my love. Uncle Rongzhan, can you please stop pretending to be reserved? Be careful that your wife will fly away and you will never find her again in this life. To the second, I am such a smart and funny beauty. He is really narcissistic. Rongzhan looked at the woman occupying his bed. What did you talk about with my sister today? Just chat. Rongzhan frowned. What's the secret about my sister? Lulu shook his head. Don't say it. She's my sister. My sister can't say either. If you are willing to tell me, I will consider marrying you. No, Lulu shook his head without hesitation. I have to abide by a gentleman's agreement. If I can't say it, I can't say it. Rongzhan leaned against the screen and crossed his arms over his chest. You are quite a gentleman. Nonsense, Lulu said in a very confident tone. My father and mother love the Queen's sister the most. How stupid am I to choose to betray her? Rongzhan raised his eyebrows. So you are so smart. That is. Rongzhan quietly looked at the girl lying on the bed holding her chin, and said she was old. She was really not that old. She looked like a girl who was about to leave the court at the age of 16 or 17, with a bit of innocence and incomprehension in the world. The delicate and smart color. Call her young, but she has a boldness and extraordinary intelligence that no 16 or 17-year-old girl would have, as well as some unknown abilities and identity. Even the Dongling royal family's powerful intelligence network could not find out her life experience, which shows how mysterious she is. Rongzhan didn't think that she was approaching him purposefully, and he was wary at first, but judging from the way this woman spoke and acted, she really didn't look like a person with ulterior motives. The only thing he didn't expect was that this girl was really fearless. Even he was very frightened in front of his father. She actually called him father when she came up. She was really a girl who was not afraid of death. What is Uncle Rongzhan thinking about? You call me uncle, and you call me father and mother like me. In this case, don't we have the same seniority as our father and mother? Lulu blinked. Yes, if you agree to marry me, I will call you brother or husband instead. Husband. Rongzhan felt numb for a moment, feeling that there was something indescribably weird about this title coming from her mouth. Father is such a powerful person. Lulu raised his face, his eyes full of admiration. I have never seen such a powerful person in my life. Not only is he good looking, but he also has extraordinary abilities. He only loved one person and gave birth to 3 children with outstanding abilities, 2 emperors and a god of war. If it were recorded in the annals of history, It would be unprecedented and unprecedented. There will never be such a legend again in 1,000 years. Man. However, the historical records are destined to be incomplete. After all, things like body snatching only exist in supernatural novels, and such bizarre and absurd things would never happen in official history. Rongzhan frowned and looked at her subtly. What I said is true, Lulu emphasized, I'm not flattering. Rongzhan said, listening to your tone, people who don't know would think you have lived 180 years. Lulu went a little further inside and patted the bed. Come up. Sleep by yourself. Rongzhan refused to share the bed with her. If I really sleep with you, my father will break my legs tomorrow. No, you have to take the initiative to fight for the person you like. Don't worry about reputation or anything else, Lulu said calmly. My father even raped my mother into the house back then. Robbed into the house? Rongzhan was surprised. How do you know? Lulu pointed to his eyes. I'm very powerful. Rongzhan was speechless for a moment. I'm actually an orphan. Lulu narrowed his eyes and his expression suddenly darkened. I have never really experienced family affection until I was so old. I really envy Uncle Rongzhan for having such a powerful father, such a gentle mother, and a strong sister. Unlike ordinary imperial families, which are full of calculations and killings, family love is precious and enviable. Rongzhan didn't expect her to say this suddenly. He was slightly startled and stared at her lonely expression in silence. You look so heartless. How do you look like an orphan? It's just a disguise. Lulu smiled, and the smile naturally wiped away the sadness. I have been different from ordinary children since I was a child. I can see things that many people can't see. My parents regarded me as a freak and abandoned me early. On the mountain, when I was dying of hunger, Master found me and took me back and raised me. Rongzhan frowned. You actually have such cruel parents. Lulu nodded. Yes, but I have forgotten their appearance. It has been too long and I am too lazy to think about it. What about your master? Master is dead, Lulu said calmly. He has been dead for many years. Rongzhan was silent for a moment, then walked over and sat down on the edge of the bed. He felt a little uncomfortable watching such a young girl talking about the past so calmly. It's all over. He reached out and touched her head. Your ability is innate. It's not your fault. I can only say that your parents were not blessed to enjoy all this. They are not blessed, but this ability does not bring me any benefit. I don't use it to make money, but it makes myself lonely and helpless. Lulu fell into his arms and said weakly and helplessly, if I had a choice, I'd rather not have such an ability. Rongzhan looked at the little head huddled in his arms and was silent for a long time, but he still couldn't bear to push her away. Don't think so much. If you really like this place, I will ask my mother to accept you as my adopted daughter. Who wants to be the adopted daughter? Lulu sat up from the bed and looked at him with a frown. I want to be the daughter-in-law of my father and mother, and I want to be your wife. Why can't you understand? Is it possible? Do you really want to die alone? Rongzhan nodded. I am indeed prepared to die alone. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 626. Why is Uncle Rongzhan so stubborn? Lulu looked at him displeased. If you are unwilling to marry me because you have a woman you like, I will definitely be willing to quit and will never force you to do anything. But if you don't like a woman, then I am destined to be your wife. Why do you want to leave such a beautiful woman like me and still want to live alone? Is there something wrong with you? Rongzhan endured it, but finally couldn't hold it back anymore. He raised his hand and knocked her on the forehead. You are the one with the problem. There's nothing wrong with you. Why are you so shy about women? Lulu sneered. It's not like you've seen through the world of mortals and plan to become a nun. What does it mean to become a nun? A man calls it a monk. Lulu snorted, is Uncle Rongzhan going to become a monk? Rongzhan frowned and glared at her. Lulu smiled, lay down again, and rested his head on his lap. I really like Uncle Rongzhan, why don't you like me? Am I annoying? Rongzhan said, I don't dislike you. But I just don't plan to get a wife, Rongzhan said, and you are so young. I'm not young, Lulu frowned and retorted, I like older people. If you really don't want to marry me, I will find an old man to marry and be his concubine. When Rongzhan heard this, he frowned so hard that he could kill a mosquito. Lulu didn't want to talk to him anymore, so he got up and lay down on the bed, covering himself with a quilt to sleep. Anyway, it's settled, if you don't make up your mind after leaving Kangyun Mountain, we will go our separate ways and never pester you again. Rongzhan looked at her silently, wondering at this time what kind of soil and water had raised such a weird woman. Marry an old man and be his concubine? Rongzhan got up, took off his clothes and lay down on the bed. Lulu pulled off the quilt and stared at him with her eyes, don't you want to sleep with me? Rongzhan closed his eyes and said in a lazy voice, I'm worried about you going to be someone's concubine. Lulu snorted, it has nothing to do with you. I thought about it just now and decided to marry you home. Rongzhan gave up fighting with her, you don't mind my age anyway, what else do I have to worry about? Lulu hid on the inside of the bed, smiling particularly cunningly. If I really want you to be a concubine with 18 rooms for someone else, I'm afraid that either you will turn the family upside down, or you will be burned alive in the name of deceiving the public with your monstrous words. Rongzhan snorted coldly. Uncle Rongzhan, she turned over, draped one leg over Rongzhan's body, and raised her arms to hold his shoulders, you are still worried about me, right? Rongzhan took her leg away, be careful to avoid suspicion. We're all sleeping on the same bed, why should we avoid any suspicion? Lulu raised her eyes and stared at his good-looking face, and said happily, fortunately, Rongzhan said that he still hasn't married at such an old age, otherwise I would really be cheated by others. 18-bedroom concubine. Rongzhan closed his eyes and ignored her. I am a very insecure girl. I have been accustomed to being alone since I was a child. I am selfish and self-interested. I don't know how to respect others. I just ask for what I want. I am afraid that others will not understand me if I am a little roundabout. I like to take things by force. Lulu raised her hand and clasped his hand, Uncle Rongzhan, if I say anything in the future that makes you unhappy, you can hit me, I promise not to resist. Hit you? Rongzhan closed his eyes and replied lazily, I can slap you 10 miles away. He was a martial arts practitioner and his hands were very strong. If he really wanted to hit her, would she be able to withstand it? Lulu muttered, you can be gentler, do you understand Lian Xiangziu? Rongzhan said, do you like me to hit you? That's not true. Lulu's voice was soft, I mean if you are angry and it's because of me, I can accept the punishment. Rongzhan opened his eyes and reached out to rub her head, I have no violent tendencies. Lulu secretly smiled, I know Uncle Rongzhan is a good man. Good guy. Rongzhan silently took back his hand, he could actually be a bad guy. Go to sleep, he said, not wanting to listen to her nonsense anymore, and deliberately arousing her sympathy, if you don't sleep, it will be dawn. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 627. Chu Qinghuang and Fukang played leisurely in the mountains for 3 days. They walked from one end of the mountains to the other every morning. When they were interested, they would compete with each other to see who was faster. They went for a walk in a deserted place. Feel the majesty and ruggedness of the mountains together. Jinyu has been staying with Rongyu and Nan 11 for the past 2 days. The two elders are responsible for taking care of food, clothing, so they are having a good time. Rongzhan and Lulu's lifestyle was similar to that of Chu Qinghuang. Sometimes the four of them would meet in the mountains. Chu Qinghuang was keenly aware that his second brother did not seem to be as repulsive to Lulu as before, and occasionally they would be a little intimate. Action. For example, pinch your face or tap your forehead. Chu Qinghuang expressed surprise at this. When we first went up the mountain, didn't the second brother want to be as far away from Miss Lulu as possible? Rongzhan looked at the woman jumping like an elf in the mountains and said calmly, this moment, that moment. Second brother, are you worried about your father? Chu Qinghuang understood. Afraid that your father will blame you for abducting an ignorant girl? Rongzhan shook his head, no. Although he was indeed worried about his father's family's treatment of him, after all, he and Lulu were quite different in age. If his father really thought that he had abducted an ignorant girl, it would be strange not to break his legs. But now it turns out that it was the ignorant girl who stalked him, and Rongzhan can confidently say that he was forced. It's not embarrassing, Chu Qinghuang mocked mercilessly, you're such an old man and you don't dare to take the initiative. If a girl gives up her restraint and sends you to your door, is your second brother still a man? What my sister said is really sad. Rongzhan clicked his tongue, it's not like you don't know the temper of my father. He doesn't show any mercy at all. Only your family, Fukang, has a little bit of trouble. If it's cheap, just follow suit. Chu Qinghuang squinted at him, Fukang is well behaved and never gets into trouble. Of course my mother loves him, but how is it like you? Rongzhan coughed lightly. Okay, my sister is right. Thinking of his heroic deeds back then, Rongzhan also felt that he really deserved to fight. But why could his father and mother be so kind to a wolf cub who kidnapped his own girl? It's not fair, isn't it? Fukang stood aside quietly, disapproving of Rongzhan's obvious injustice. He wanted to say that he was not afraid of being beaten. As long as the master did not leave him to learn skills in the mountains, he would be fine even if he had bamboo whip fried meat 3 times a day. Intolerable. But there were only a few times when the master took action against him, so what should he do? You can't ask the master to beat him. Chu Qinghuang silently listened to the wolf cub's slander, turned her head and glanced at him, secretly thinking that if her second brother heard these words, he would definitely think that he was deliberately demonstrating to show off. What does sister think of her? Chu Qinghuang withdrew her gaze and looked at the light and agile figure in the mountain. Very good. Very good. Rongzhan turned to look at her, that's it? What else? Chu Qinghuang raised his eyebrows, whether he likes her or not, and whether he wants to marry her or not, is all the second brother's own business. As bystanders, we can only give a relatively fair evaluation. I think she is quite good. He is open-minded, bold, and smart. There may be some secrets about his origins, but overall, there should be no problem. After a pause, besides, she has appeared in front of my father and mother. Based on my father's experience, if there is a problem with her, it is impossible for my father not to notice it. Rongzhan nodded, that's right. Just act when you feel like it. Don't give yourself so many irrelevant reasons. Chu Qinghuang turned around, clasped Fukang's hand, and the two of them walked down the mountain path together. Fukang and I will go back to eat. It's lunch. Second brother, please stay here with her. Rongzhan followed her back, and after a moment, he turned his head to look at the beautiful figure of the woman in the mountain, and his eyebrows could not help but wrinkle again. Do you really want to marry a woman who is more than 10 years younger than yourself? It feels a bit unethical to take advantage of others. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 628. 3 days later, another group of people came at the foot of the mountain. Dongling Emperor Xian Yuanhao and his queen, as well as their 2 sons and daughters Xian Yuanchenxi and Xian Yuan Dongju, Dongling Chief Assistant Xiejin, Dongling General Xian Yuanyao, and a mighty group of well-dressed guards. The mountain suddenly became lively. I found that Uncle Xia and Uncle Yao have become more and more lazy in the past 2 years. They join in wherever there is excitement. Are you not busy with government affairs in Dongling? Chu Qinghuang watched the crowd of people coming up the mountain and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Everyone in charge of the family is gone. Aren't you afraid that your country will be taken away from you? Your Majesty the Queen, you don't know, Xiejin said with a smile. Government affairs have to be taken care of by people who can take on big responsibilities. Yao Yao and I have already reached the age of retiring and returning to our hometowns. If the emperor hadn't kept letting us go, we would have. I've already learned how to travel around. Why do I need to work so hard on government affairs? Every generation in the country has talents. The younger generation has reached the age where they can take on big responsibilities, so why do they need the hard work of the older people? Don't get involved with me at your age. Xian Yuanyao frowned. I'm still young. Xiejin reached out and tugged on his hair. General, don't hold me back. Uncle Yao has always maintained the mentality of a handsome young man. Some of the noble ladies of the Dongling family still miss Uncle Yao. Rongzhan said aside. Uncle Jin is still young, at least he can still serve as the first assistant. 20 years. Xiejin frowned tightly. The king of war wants to squeeze us old bones to death. No big or small, Xian Yuanyao snorted coldly. If someone keeps thinking about me, it's because I'm very charming. How can you be in your 30s and you don't even have a woman yet? Uncle Rongzhan has it. A voice from the side came in, weak, timid, and with a tone that was not so confident. I am Uncle Rongzhan's fiancé. Uniform. Countless pairs of eyes instantly fell on the face of the woman who spoke, and then they saw a girl in her 20s, with beautiful appearance, apricot eyes, and white teeth. Xian Yuanhao had met this girl before and sent someone to check her details, but found nothing. Xian Yuanyao and Xiejin seemed to have discovered a new world. War King Lao Niu eats young grass. Xiejin raised his eyebrows. No wonder he hasn't married a wife for so many years. Rongzhan frowned. Uncle Yao is not old yet. How can I be old? You are not old, but you can't stand the young girl. Xie hummed twice, looked at Lulu, with interest in his eyes. The little girl is only 28 years old. Hello, uncles. Lulu walked out and greeted the 2 elders in a polite manner. My name is Lulu. I am Uncle Zhan Wang's fiancé and the one who grew old with him. I am already 28 years old this year. A perfect match for Uncle Rongzhan. Xian Yuanyao had a strange expression. Call Rongzhan uncle, call us uncle. Are we the same generation as Rongzhan now? Rongzhan whispered from the side. My father and I are almost the same generation. 28 years old. Xiejin looked the little girl up and down. Does Miss Lu have an eye for beauty? Lulu's expression was extremely calm. She is naturally beautiful and has a good attitude. She looks much younger than her actual age. Xian Yuanhao held his daughter in one hand and his son in the other, but he didn't pay much attention to the little girl. Anyway, I have already met my father and mother. Since I can still live in the mountain after meeting, I have mostly been recognized and there is no need for him, the royal brother, to scrutinize them too much. So Xian Yuanhao quickly said, the master said don't look at anything inappropriate and don't say anything inappropriate. Uncle Jin and Uncle Yao are both men. Don't always stare at the little girl. It's rude. It's okay. Lulu smiled obediently, showing 8 neat white teeth. Brother Huang and the 2 uncles are Uncle Rongzhan's relatives. They should keep Uncle Rongzhan in check and not let him. I was deceived emotionally by a scheming woman. As soon as these words came out, Xiejin couldn't help but laugh, deceiving Rongzhan's feelings. Do you think he is a young boy of 13 or 14? His feelings of deceiving you are pretty much the same. Lulu waved his hands repeatedly. No, no, Uncle Rongzhan is not that kind of person. Rongzhan couldn't help but rolled his eyes. Xiejin hooked his shoulder and said, His Royal Highness, this is a treasure. I am very happy and congratulated. Where did this treasure come from? Rongzhan frowned. Can't you see that she is just a fool? Here they teased Rongzhan's feelings for a long time, and over there Chu Qinghuang and Xian Yuanhao and his wife greeted each other as they should and saluted as they should. From adults to children, they quickly completed the greeting process of a first meeting. Then the group of people walked towards the main hall. Rongyu and Nan 11 stood in the spacious courtyard, looking at the bustling scene in front of them. Nan 11 smiled softly. It hasn't been this lively in a long time. It should be said that it has never been so lively, Rongzhan said with a smile. My father and mother like to be quiet. They have traveled all over the world for so many years. Most of the time, Kangyun Mountain has been their home. Occasionally, I go back to Dongling. My sister is not here, so I always feel that it is too little something. Rongzhan is right. Without my sister, there is someone missing from the family, and we cannot be reunited. Xian Yuanhao nodded. Father and mother are now enjoying the true happiness of a family, with their children and grandchildren around their knees, laughing and laughing. What a great picture. The picture in front of me is really good. Rongyu, who had always been stern, reserved and taciturn, now had a rare soft expression on his face. Nan 11 even smiled, with a gentle light in her eyes. There were lively times before, but that was a long time ago. Nan 11 said, Now that we have children and grandchildren around us, doesn't it prove that your father and I are old? What are you talking about, mother? Rongzhan frowned. Uncle Yao and Uncle Jin have no children, and they are not older than you and father. I want a child of my own, but it's a pity that Xiejin can't have one. What can I do? Xian Yuanyao sneered. Isn't it that the king of Zhan said this to deliberately bully people? Xiejin sighed. Fortunately, I have a strong mind and can withstand rumors and sarcasm, otherwise I would have died long ago. Xian Yuanyao followed and said, But then again, the master and his majesty are indeed not old. It was like this a few years ago, and it is still like this a few years later. Uncle Yao is such a big man, don't flatter him whenever you get the chance. Rongzhan sneered. Father has stopped caring about government affairs. You should flatter your brother. If your brother is happy, he might make you a general. Pa! Xian Yuanyao slapped him on the head. I want to be a king? What I want is an idle position. Do you understand an idle position? Rongzhan sneered. Uncle Yao, think about it carefully, you will think of it sooner or later. Lulu blinked, listening to the two people talking, and found them so interesting. And look at these people in front of him, handsome men, beautiful women, regardless of age, all of them are full of charm and irresistible. Honestly, Lulu walked to the side of Chu Qinghuang and muttered in a low voice, If I were the queen, looking at these handsome men in front of me, how could I resist? I'm afraid I can't wait to stuff them into the harem one by one. Chu Qinghuang heard the words, and a black line instantly fell on his forehead. It happened that everyone present was a master, and even if Lulu lowered her voice, it was heard by others. At that moment, the expressions of these men who were majestic no matter where they were, and could make people tremble with a wave of their hands, were as weird as they could be. Especially Xiejia and Rongzhan, the expressions on their faces showed no intention of hiding. Miss Lu really has a lot of taste, Xiejin sighed. King Zhan really got a treasure. Silly treasure. I said, are you stupid? Rongzhan raised his hand and rubbed her head, whispering in front of so many masters, who are you talking to? You still want to take them all into the harem, can you bear it? Do you believe that if I pull anyone over, I can crush you into powder with just one finger? I just felt it, I don't really want to do it, Lulu said calmly, and I'm just making an analogy. There are many types of handsome men in the world. Even if Her Majesty wants to take them in, she will take some young ones. How could it be possible? How could it be possible to take some men who can be her uncles into the harem? Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 629. It's not okay to talk about it for fun, Rongzhan ordered her, his coercion faintly revealed. You are not allowed to talk nonsense in the future, otherwise you will be punished by military law. Lulu said oh and shut up obediently. Everyone removed their playful eyes and walked towards the main hall. There were too many people, and it would be lively if they all got together to have fun, but it was also too lively. Rongyu and his son, Fuekang, Xiejian, and Xian Yuanyao went to the study together. Nan 11, Chu Qinghuang, Fu Dange, and Lulu stayed in the hospital to play with the children. Qinxi is 10 years old, and has long been cultivated to have the demeanor of a prince. He is unsmiling at a young age, and there is an indescribable sense of security when he stands there. Dongju is about the same age as Jinyu, and the two sisters are 3 months apart. Dongju is lively, and his eyes light up when he looks at Jinyu, as if he has seen some strange toy. Chu Qinghuang stood aside and watched, hearing Nan 11 ask, "Aren't you going to have another child?" "I don't want to give birth anymore." Chu Qinghuang shook his head. "I want to concentrate on governing the world. I can spend my free time with Fuekang and love her. The last time I gave birth to Jinyu, I was pregnant for 12 months and Fuekang lost a lot of weight. It doesn't hurt me to death." Nan 11 laughed. Fuekang is a child who knows how to care for others. Knowing how to care for others also makes people feel distressed. The emperor's sister-in-law should not have given birth either. Chu Qinghuang's eyes fell on Fu Dange. This woman had not been seen for more than 2 years. She was more confident and gentle than the last time we met. Qinxi is young. With the demeanor of a prince, Dongzhu also teaches well and looks much more lively than Jinyu. Jinyu has the demeanor of a king. Fu Dange smiled softly. How can a queen and a princess be the same? Lulu nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes, Jinyu will be the queen in the future. One of the 3 palaces and 6 courtyards cannot be missing. She is different from the princess. As soon as these words came out, Nan 11 was the first to be quiet. Chu Qinghuang turned his head and looked at Lulu. 3 palaces and 6th courtyard. Lulu nodded. Chu Qinghuang said, "The queen does not necessarily want 3 palaces and 6 courtyards. Her Majesty the Queen and Master Fuekang originally only had this daughter. In the future, the royal family will become fewer and fewer. If the next queen continues to be monogamous, the royal family will become increasingly declining. The decline of imperial power means the power of ministers will become stronger. It's not a good thing for Ziki Shirji," Lulu said. "Besides, the little empress loves beauties. Sangong and 6 courtyards can balance power and fulfill her hobby of collecting beautiful men from all over the world. Why not kill 2 birds with 1 stone?" Chu Qinghuang didn't say anything. Thinking that her daughter had also said that she would build a golden palace to collect beauties from all over the world, she couldn't help but think, had Lulu got angry with her daughter in advance? Nan 11's eyes fell on Jinyu. Jinyu is indeed a special child. Chu Qinghuang laughed. "What is special in our eyes becomes different in the eyes of the world. They can find reasons to criticize anyone who is deviant, unruly, shocking, ridiculous, anything that goes against the 3 obediences and 4 virtues." Nan 11 said, "It depends on everyone's choice. Would you rather live a peaceful and docile life under the shackles of many rules and have a smooth and trouble-free life, or break free from the shackles of rules and strive for the supreme position that the world looks up to? But you have to endure rumors, accusations, and abuse. It depends on your ability and courage. Obviously, Chu Qing Huang is by no means a little girl willing to succumb to fate and secular rules, and her daughter will also not be bound by ethical rules. If I really want to continue the system of queen rule, there is nothing wrong with the 3 palaces and 6 courtyards. Chu Qing Huang turned and entered the hall, sat down and poured herself a cup of tea. What a man can do, a woman can also do. The 3 palaces and 6 courtyards have always been the welfare of the emperor. No man has ever said that he is willing to give up all the beauties in the world for a woman. The so-called heirs are endless and scattered, but in the end, the heirs kill each other and the royal family is divided. Personally, I think there are disadvantages to having too many heirs. It can be seen that procreation is just an excuse for men to satisfy their own selfish desires and satisfy their lust. Since men can do it, if a woman becomes a queen, she should also enjoy this benefit. There is nothing different about it. Chu Qing Huang looked at her daughter playing outside the hall, secretly imagining what she would be like when she grew up. The harem was full of beautiful men, just like the backyard when she was the eldest princess, with 2 Zongjin, 3 Wenzhan, and 4 Hongyu, 5 Kailing, plus 2 Chuling Chuan, among which there may be a Fukang. A swarm of people were clamoring for favor. Chu Qinghuang's expression froze for a moment. He took a sip of tea, quietly put the teacup back on the table, and raised his hand to rest on his forehead. Well, there's nothing to think about, that picture shouldn't exist. Nan 11 sat down next to her. How long do you plan to stay here? Chu Qinghuang came back to her senses. It won't be too long. The weather has been comfortable these 2 days. We have to go back before the weather gets hot. We can stay here for at most half a month. Nan 11 nodded. Half a month is enough. You all have important responsibilities now, so you can't develop the habit of laziness. Chu Qinghuang smiled and said, I accompanied Fukang to the Yan Kingdom just a few years ago. I heard Nan 11 raised her lips. The ministers of the Yan Kingdom are making noises about establishing a new crown prince. Chu Qinghuang nodded, thinking about it is useless. Yangguo can only be Fukang's Yangguo. When Jinyu grows up, Yangguo will be Fukang's coming-of-age gift for his daughter. Nan 11 didn't care about their national affairs. She smiled and looked out of the hall. What do you think of this girl Lulu? Very interesting. Chu Qinghuang looked at the scene outside the palace where Lulu was playing with Jinyu. My second brother hasn't married for so many years, and it's destined that he will have such a unique wife. Nan 11 hummed, it's just that sometimes what he says is a bit out of tune. Chu Qinghuang pursed her lips and smiled, indeed, there will be headaches for my second brother in the future. Nan 11 looked at her and raised her hand to stroke her hair. Mother used to worry about you the most. Now that you are all living so happily, this heart is finally put down. I owe my mother too. Chu Qinghuang rarely acted like a little girl, leaning on her shoulder. My father and mother worked hard for me all those years, and Uncle Jeanruo cast a spell to take over my body, so that I can live again. And live so comfortably and freely, not trapped by emotions, not forced by the situation. All of this is backed by my father and mother, which gives me enough confidence to do what I want to do. Nan 11 stroked her head. It's mainly because your father is worried. I can't do anything. What mother said is wrong. Chu Qinghuang raised an eyebrow. My eldest brother, second brother, and I are so outstanding, and it's not the credit of my father alone. Besides, without mother, I'm afraid the 3 of us would not even have the chance to be born. Although Chu Qinghuang had never seen the degree of paranoia of father towards mother, she had heard a lot over the years. If mother didn't love father, father would have lived alone for the rest of his life and would never look at other women. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 630. When Rongyu and Xiejin came out of the study, they were listening to Qinzi standing in front of the palace, pointing to the endless mountains in the distance, and patiently teaching Dongju and Jinyu how to read: lofty mountains, steep ridges, mountains, ups and downs. Dongju opened his small mouth and chanted, "Chongshan, you are so majestic, the mountains and rivers are rising." Jinyu frowned delicately and looked at her expressionlessly, as if looking at a little fool. "Dongju is still young, Jinyu, please don't look at her with such contempt." Rongzhan picked her up and said, "At least I know how to read it. You are imitating your mother's aloofness at a young age, be careful. When I grow up, I scare away all the handsome men." Dongju had a sweet mouth and immediately reached out for a hug. "Uncle." Rongzhan bent down and picked her up, holding Jinyu in his left hand and Dongzu in his right hand. The personality difference between the two sisters was quickly highlighted. Dongju sat on Rongzhan's arms, softly calling to Rongyu and others, "Grandpa, grandmother, uncle, aunt, uncle." Her speech was clear and fluent, and her small mouth made everyone smile knowingly and couldn't help but want to kiss her twice. Jinyu obviously didn't like to talk, but Rongzhan was shocked to find that among so many people, her favorite person was actually her father. She stretched out her two little arms and let Rongyu hug her directly. "Grandpa. The little princess is so knowledgeable." Xiejin was surprised. If she was brought up by the master, I wouldn't be so surprised, but the first time we met, this is the first time we met, right? He was worried that he had missed something, so he turned around and asked Chu Qinghuang. "Except for the fact that we arrived at Canyon Mountain a few days before you, my father has never met Jinyu before." Chu Qinghuang said in a leisurely tone, "Jinyu likes my father probably because he is strong. It's the same as your brother since he was a child." Nan 11 sighed. As expected, children all admire the strong. They still have childlike innocence, but they can distinguish between good and evil, strong and weak, and know who is the most powerful among this group of people. Rongyu looked at Jinyu, who was staying in his arms, remembering how when he was a child, and a slight smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "Would you like to live here for a while?" Jinyu looked at him with clear eyes. "What did my grandfather teach me?" Rongyu said, "Anything is fine." Jinyu tilted her head and pointed in the direction of the valley. "I want to defeat them all. There are many masters hidden in the valley. Every morning there are people flying around. Qinggong is very powerful." Rongyu nodded, "Okay." Jinyu said, "I also want to learn music." "Why do you want to learn music?" Jinyu curled her lips. "I just want to learn." "Okay." Rongyu nodded, "Learn." Jinyu raised her hand and gestured, "I want to become very, very powerful as my grandfather." Rongyu continued to nod, "No problem." Jinyu smiled, her eyes turning into crescent moons, "I want to be the most powerful person in the world." Rongyu's voice was steady, "You have to endure hardship." Jinyu hummed, "I'm not afraid of hardship." Rongyu said calmly, "Grandpa will be very strict." Jinyu kissed him quietly, her voice soft and childish, "Will you hit me?" Everyone present couldn't help but laugh out loud. Is the little princess negotiating terms with a kiss? It's a pity that Rongyu was not bribed by a kiss, maybe. Oh, Jinyu put her arm around his shoulder and said obediently, "I'm not afraid of being beaten." No one in the courtyard spoke, and they just listened to the little princess, who was not very talkative, and her grandfather, who usually didn't talk much, communicating without any obstacles. One dared to speak and the other dared to respond. Xianyuan Hao and Xianyuan Rongzhan sat aside and couldn't help but touch their noses. The father seemed to have given all his patience to this little granddaughter, probably because he loved Wujai. Although the father also loves them, he has always advocated that if you love him, you should beat him well. The stick imposes the iron law of the strong. I have never seen him be so patient with anyone except his mother and Nuanuan. Xiejin and Xianyuanyao deeply felt that their trip to Kangyun Mountain was not in vain. It was a rare sight in their lifetime to see their lord being coaxed by a little girl to lower his body and patiently accompany him. Sure enough. No matter how strong you are, you can't resist the happiness and beauty of enjoying family happiness with your loved one. Jin, you can stay on the mountain. Rong Yu raised his eyes and looked at Chu Qinghuang and Fukang. What's your decision? Chu Qinghuang was silent for a moment. My father seemed to have said before that if our children are too stupid, they will be sent to Kangyun Mountain for you to teach them personally. Does this decision now prove that Jin Yu's qualifications are dull and difficult to become a talent? Jin Yu is not stupid. Rong Yu hugged Jin Yu and turned around to enter the hall. The others followed. I don't plan to teach everything myself this time. The martial arts can be practiced with her by experts from the mountains. I will invite her to the best piano player in the world, the best chess master in the world, the best Kimandunjia master in the world. Everyone listened quietly, their expressions as silent as snow. Everything else can be taught by the most powerful master, but the art of emperors can be taught by Rong Yu himself. What will the children trained by the world's top masters look like after a few years? Cultivation of spirituality and understanding before the age of 3, and a solid foundation before the age of 5. Rong Yu said, lectures are officially given at the age of 5. After saying that, Rong Yu pointed at the rolling mountains outside. If you become a master, everything on Kangyun Mountain will belong to you. Jin Yu blinked and looked at him. Grandpa, didn't you lie to me? My grandfather always sticks to his word and never lies. Make a deal. Chu Qinghuang and Xianyuanhao looked at each other. Xiejing couldn't help but sigh. It seemed that the master was willing to spend a lot of effort to teach the empress. Even the power of Juxiao Pavilion was to be handed over to the little princess. The master was interested in Jinyu, not the Qinzi and Dongju of Dongling. If it was placed in an ordinary family, it would inevitably cause some dissatisfaction and jealousy, but Xianyuanhao and Rongzhan would definitely not be jealous. Xianyuanhao was trained as a prince since he was a child. He was calm and generous at a young age, and he was strong and tolerant. He protected Rongzhan, his younger brother, and indulged him. The two brothers had the sister when they were in their teens. They were really afraid of her being broken and afraid of her falling. When Nuanuan grew up, her temperament became closer to her father. Rongzhan was really hurt, and sometimes he was really scared. Every time he saw his sister, he felt like his father had arrived, which made him feel pressured. In addition, the disaster that was destined for Nuan made the two brothers feel more distressed and worried about her. Now that their father, mother, and sister are safe, they are very satisfied. How could they have other ideas? In this case, this matter is decided. Rong Yu said calmly, staying in Kangyun Mountain can also avoid some hidden crises.